listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are and when you're listening to Second Wind. It's always a pleasure to know you're out there listening and that you'll get a good podcast today. I've had this guest on my show before, and he offered to come back on my show, which I was very pleased to say yes. And so we're going to talk about some really interesting information about relationships. How awesome is that? And don't we all need a little encouragement in that area? All right, let me tell you, just as reminders, or if you are the first time to listen to Dr. Andrew Hahn. Dr. Andrew Hahn is a clinical psychologist and founder of the Life-Centered Therapy Institute. He grew up in Belmont, Massachusetts, went to Harvard College, and then got his doctorate at Hahnemann University in Philadelphia. Now, he also grew up in a household that had a mother that was a psychologist, so it was pretty typical that was the way he followed in his family. So anyway, we're delighted that you are back with us, Andy. Thank you for saying yes and being with us today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me come back. I'm feeling really fortunate, and I love sharing about relationships. I mean, we all aspire to having relationships that are truly joyful and satisfying, and anything we can do to make that a little bit better is a great thing. So
I'm going to make a pretty scary statement, and you can correct me or change it, but I see so many broken homes. I did not come from a broken home, but I've certainly divorced. And it's sad to me that we have so many divorces in our country, but I think it's all over the world. Correct?
I think we have a lot of divorces. It's true. And most of them are not because people really don't belong together, but because they don't know how to be together.
Very true. Yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't say that I had the best model in my house, but my family did stay together. So how much did I take away from my birth family that reappears in my adult life with relationships?
I think most of us take an awful lot away from our families. We take away relationships. We particularly if we come from families where there's a lot of mixed feelings, it's like the best way to make sure you never lose your family is to take them inside of you. So you take in your relationship with your mother, you take in your relationship with your father, you take in your experience of their relationship, and they become kind of like templates. And our work then often is to say, can we learn from them as opposed to just exactly reliving what they've done. So I'd say one major part of what goes on with couples is that they try to heal the relationships that they weren't able to handle in their families, their own relationships, or their parents' relationship, for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that I am aware of, just in my relationship, and I'm using myself only as an example here, is that I never really knew how to have a discussion in a difficult, I didn't know how to I didn't know how to communicate. That would be a nice big word. So it was really difficult for me to communicate my feelings with my ex-husband. So how does one work on that?
Well, I think there are several ways if you want to talk about communication. So I'll just give you some sense of things. The first thing is that in order to communicate well, we have to become identified with the one of us that is having experiences as opposed to just automatically reliving the experiences. So we want to learn how, it's like building a muscle, learn how to become more of a witness and someone who holds ourselves as opposed to identifying with ourselves. So the more we can do that, the freer we are. So if something happens and I can be aware of my reactivity as opposed to just reacting, that's a great thing. And most of that is around trauma and maturity. And so when there's something traumatic that happens to us and our partner triggers it, right? Good luck.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer going to be an adult. You're going to be the child that something is happening to. And what often happens in couples is that they have mutual, senses of being devalued in some way. And then they play it out with their partners, trying, of course, to remember it so they can heal and evolve. That's one of the reasons we get married. We think we get married in order to, because we love someone. Well, we get married because we love someone. We also get married in order to have an opportunity, to rework things that happen to us and hopefully to do it in a better way. So the first thing that has to happen if you're talking about couples is you have to know how to work with grudges that have nothing to do with each other, but we think it has to do with each other, but it doesn't. It's like we put somebody else's head on our, on our partner, and then we play that out. And I can give you so many examples of that. So one thing we have to be able to do if we want to be able to communicate is bear witness to what's going on and not identify with what's going on. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we have to be able to talk about talking sometimes. Like we might have to say, I'm aware that what happens between us is we keep interrupting each other. So the real problem is in our process. It's not even in the content of what we're saying. So maybe we have to find a way not to do that. Maybe we're going to have to find a way to take turns. And when we're really, when it's the other person's turn, hopefully they're going to speak slowly enough from the inside out that they're listening to themselves. But our job is to really listen to them without being reactive and to really see if we can find where they're coming from. Because I'll tell you, the other thing that kills couples is we have all kinds of assumptions that are implicit and then expectations that are implicit. And they never get talked about until, we're hitting each other in the head with 2x4s and saying, don't you understand that this is what? No, I had a whole different idea about that. Mm-hmm. So, we have to be able to do that. And then the third thing I'd say we have to be able to do is we have to recognize our personalities. And we all come in with such different lenses. And of course, we think everybody else is a crazy version of ourselves. So, what they do makes no sense. Mm-hmm. And, but if we really understood, we had a way of understanding people from the inside out and understanding differences that make a difference, and that it's just different worldviews, and that isn't about right or wrong, or, mainly about right or wrong, because people say, I'm right, and the other people say, I'm right. And it's, and it isn't about, it's about perspectives. And can we be in a different relationship with our perspectives? But first we have to know our perspectives to be in a different relationship with them. And then once we know them, the last thing we have to do is our perspectives are usually based in fear. And if we can deal with the fear, right? I mean, I'll give you a simple example, and we can take all these things. Let's suppose I have to always do everything, perfectly. Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. And I do, and you do too. Well, underneath that, there's a fear, right? That I'm bad, or I'm wrong, or I'm something. So I have to prove to everybody that I'm good and right and correct and proper. But I have this fear that that's not the case. Well, if I could face my fear, then my personality becomes less like wearing armor and more like wearing like a, diaphanous dress where, it's lighter and we can live through it. So grudges and living out the past, the capacity to have some strategies, the capacity to see our core lenses, and then to be in a different relationship with them. And if we could do that, we'd have great relationships, which is why we don't have so many great relationships.
Yeah. Why is it that we don't? I had a particularly long courtship, but I think, most people have a year or two, maybe courtships. But why is it that even when we see the red flags, we don't accept them, or we think they're not important to be aware of?
Usually because we don't integrate all parts of our being. So if you fall in love with somebody, right?
Yes.
Well, what's falling in love with someone you don't know them? Really? What is it? I'm going to tell you what I think it is.
Okay.
It's idealization. They have some quality that you don't have, and you say, oh my God, I'm so rigid and he's so free, right? And you idealize it because you don't see, that you see something that's not in yourself. But then the very thing you saw that you so idealize, when you start to live with them, you say, wait a second, it's like, he is so like never does anything. And it's the same thing, right? So when there's something quality that we don't have and we see it in somebody else, we literally can fall in love with it. But then when we get to live with it, we can literally like hate it, right? And so, and that doesn't usually come up until you sort of like, or alternatively, when people, before they're married, they see themselves in a certain kind of light, like we're two lovers or whatever,
Right.
and there's not the seriousness. And then they get married and suddenly they're living out their parents' relationship, or they're living out the relationship with their father or mother or something. Whereas when they were just like dating, it's like, we're just doing our thing. So, and that can last for like, lifetimes, so,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why we don't see things, it's like, we don't see, because we don't ask the hard questions.
Well, I'll share with you, because I think this may be my session with you, Andy. But a good example. But I sort of had the thought it will change if there was something that I didn't like. It will change after we marry. Isn't that a crazy thought?
Yes, that's a crazy thought. Now, of course, more women have that thought than men for a variety of reasons that are cultural. They say, you know what, they'll change. They'll get married, they'll become more responsible, or they'll become and I'm going to marry their potential. And in marrying their potential, you don't say, who am I really with?
Right.
Because people may change. But if they do, it's because they want to, and not because you want them to. And in fact, the more you want them to, the less they're likely to do it, because they're going to feel controlled. And then they're going to say, like, who are you? You're just trying to control me, so I'll become even more stubborn or whatever. And, and you'll say, well, you didn't understand. Marriage means that you're supposed to act this way. And they said, where is it written in the Bible? I don't see that it says marriage means you're supposed to act a certain way.
Right.
And then, of course, and whenever you have whenever you're marrying potential or an ideal, reality, looks really bad, because you weren't being real in the first place.
True, so true. So can a couple, when they realize they're not getting along, they're not talking to each other, they're just not communicating well, what is the best route for them? They can't do it by themselves, can they? Don't they need some guidance?
Yes. Well, I will tell you the guidance I would give them. Okay. All right. The first thing is, when you're reactive to your partner, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Okay. But when you're reactive to your partner, assume it has very little to do with your partner, because if it had something to do with your partner and nothing else, you wouldn't be reactive. You might be, disappointed, or you might feel sad about it or something, but you wouldn't be judgmental. As soon as you're judgmental, it has nothing to do with them. It has something to do with something else. And so if you could feel the sensation in your body when you felt reactive to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
and just bring all your attention there and say, like, something's happening with your partner and suddenly, your chest is tightening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you'd say, okay, chest is tightening is somebody else. So tightening chest, what did
Oh.
you come to share? If you were to bring all your attention to tightening chest, you could say, what have you come to share about why I'm feeling so reactive to him? And invariably, if you're relatively traditional, you'll find something that happened when you were a child.
Ah.
I'll give you an example of what I mean.
Uh-huh.
So this is the
Yeah.
first thing, because I think the first things couples need to do is handle the reactivity they have to each other.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of one of the first times I worked this way, which is now about 30 years ago. I had a couple who came in, and it's because the husband punched the wife.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's no.
Well,
Okay.
that was a no-no, and we handled the no-no part of it. And then we said, we're going to find out what happened in that scene. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you what happened. I'll try to make this really fast. They were quite traditional. They were both quite large people and quite strong. And they were going to have a traditional marriage. And she had just had a baby, and he had a terrible accident. And he was an electrician, and he had an accident and he fell, and he had to go to workman's comp. But even that wasn't enough money. So then she had to go work, which meant he had to stay at home and watch the kid, which nobody was expecting that was going to happen. Okay.
Right.
One day he's doing the diapers. She walks in, and in a tone of voice that she thinks is just being playful, she says, "Oh, that's a stupid way to do that." And he goes off and slugs her. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what brought them to therapy. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to tell you what happened. Okay. So I say to both of them, all right, let's play out that scene again. And I started with him, and I said, if that scene had gone exactly the way you wanted it to go, what would have happened? And he would have said, she would have come in and said, look, I see you're struggling with this, but like, I see you're really trying to do your best. And I'm just like, I'm really like happy with you. So I said, could you do that for him? Just in these four walls? Because they really did care a lot about each other. She said, of course I can. So she did that. All right. I said to her, okay, what would have happened for you when you said that? That's a stupid way of doing things. And she said, all I really wish is he had like let me help him and like show him a better way to do the thing. But I was just being playful, but really I was kind of upset. And I said, okay, well, I asked him, could you do that? And he said, sure. And so she comes in and sort of like says her line, that's kind of a stupid way to do things. And he says, I know it's kind of stupid, but, I'm sure you know a better way. Could you help me? And then she almost starts to cry. Okay. Then I say, forget each other. Okay. And I'll tell you, his story is a little bit more dramatic. I said, forget that. I want you to just really see what happens in your body when you really allow the reactivity that comes up when she said, that's a stupid way of doing things. Okay. And this man, who is very traditional, starts to cry. And his wife, her eyes bulge for a reason I'll tell you in a second. He says, I know exactly what's going on. I haven't thought about this forever. That I'm like a 9-year-old boy, and my father's a worker, like I'm a worker. And he was a laborer, and I wanted to help him out. So I have this big shovel, and I'm trying to there was gravel, and he was trying to move around the gravel to help his father out. Mm-hmm. And he overhears his father say to a friend softly, look at my stupid kid, he can't even shovel right. Oh. And he is crying and crying and crying. Okay. So I say to the wife, could we have you stand in for his father? And I say to him, what did you want from your father? And he says, all I wanted was for him to say, I can see how much you're trying to help me, and I can see it's hard for you, but I can see how much you're trying to help me. I have her say that, and he starts crying even more. Now, I will tell you, this couple had been married for, I don't know how long they've been married, a long time. I mean, not that long, but years. She said, I've never seen this man cry. Okay, then I say to her, okay, let's find out about your story, about, like whatever's going on and with you. Mm-hmm. And so I say, I want you to really focus on this thing of someone's doing something and there's a better way, you know, a better way to do it, and all you want to do is help.
Mhm.
And she says, oh God. And I said, what happens in your body? And I don't remember what she said. This is 30 years ago, but she said something.
Right.
I said, bring all your attention there. And she says, oh my God, my mother is trying to like do some drapes in the house. And I'm like 6 years old and I can see there's a better way to do this than she's doing it. Like I can see it. And all I want to do is help out, you know, tell her, Mom, I see a way to do this. Let me help you. And she starts to say this, and my mom says, like, go outside and play.
Yeah.
And she said, I hadn't even realized how angry I was. So when I said, that's a stupid way of doing things, that's what I really wanted to say to her. But I really wanted to just like be able to help her. And I said, okay, let's play out that scene again. And I asked him to be the mother, and he was. And she starts crying. And suffice it to say, their problems about slugging each other around stupid and not getting help were solved because they were able to like say, it's not you. I put my father's head on you. I put my mother's head on you. And I hadn't realized it because there's this little one inside who's called tight chest or sick to stomach or whatever. And they're waiting for my attention. So they give me an opportunity to like, you know, it's like you fail the class, you get to do it again 5,000 times, right? Until you finally say, oh my gosh, I was just trying to heal so I could let it go and grow. That's why we got married. Right? So that's the first thing.
That's a great example. Yeah. I think lots of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Like every married couple.
Yes.
And every other couple relationship.
Well,
you know,
every relationship.
Every
you
relationship.
get upset with friends.
Yeah. Well,
and, play your act.
Yeah. Well, it's but the people we save it for the most are the people we're closest to.
Yeah. Children and partners. Now you're using from your resource that you and Joan Beckett wrote, correct? This the 1 hour miracle.
Yeah.
Explain how that was written.
How it was written.
Yeah, how it came to be written.
Oh, how it came? Well, how it was written is different. How it was written was with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And, you know, Joni and I, you know, basically having to work out all of our stuff as best we could, you know, because, you know, we're not married, but, you know, writing a book is kind of like marriage without, I can't say this is a family show, but you can finish the sentence. Yeah. Anyway, but it's sort of like having a child without having had the, you know, the things that brought that child into being, you know, being a child. How it came to be written is, like, we have this way of working, you know, like to say that you're a community inside and there's somebody inside who's tight chest, but tight chest real name is 7-year-old you, right? Yes. And they're there waiting for your attention so that every time you're reactive, there's a sensation. And when you choose to bring your awareness to that sensation, you no longer unconsciously identify with that 7-year-old, right? But you say, I'm choosing to be that 7-year-old, like I'm choosing to become like a character in a play who's 7-year-old me. But I'm no longer unconsciously playing it out by hitting my wife or calling my husband stupid, right? Which is just me as a little kid. But let's suppose I could choose to become that little kid by choice, like an actor choosing to be a character in a play or a movie or a novel, and then say, I'm going to bear witness to you. I'm going to hold you. As opposed to I unconsciously am you, playing you out with my husband and wife. That's called freedom. So like, and I've seen these things over in a 1 hour miracle. That session I told you about took a little over an hour. I want you to know for that couple it was a miracle. Yeah. Because they were freer and their relationship went, you know, got way better. Obviously, they became way more intimate. They became way more loving, and that happened in an hour. And that's why our agent said you should call it the 1 hour miracle, which was not our choice. That was not our choice of a title for a book, but
I think it's very attention getting. I mean, who doesn't like a quick fix? Yeah, hour is a little amount of time to fix something like that.
Well, the second you realize that you're playing out things that you're reliving things that you have dismembered in a sense, right? That 7-year-old has taken on a life of their own and they're running the show. The one who's there and, helping his father with the gravel, he's the one who's here when he, hits his wife. He's not an adult. He's a 7-year-old kid with his father, right? Right. So what would happen if we choose to remember them by finding them in our body, right? Tight chest. Tight chest is the same as 7-year-old boy. Same thing. It's an AKA, right? And we choose to become them. And then suddenly it's no longer we're automatically living out their story, but we say, oh my goodness. Oh, you needed my attention and you needed me to be here holding you and, bearing witness to you and accepting you, which you didn't feel accepted when you're the 7-year-old boy out in that, gravel pit or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Now you're no longer the 7-year-old boy. You remember the 7-year-old boy, but you don't automatically live him out. Or you remember the 9-year-old girl who's there trying to help mom, but mom says, go out and play, right? Get out of here, go out and play, right? And suddenly you remember her so you don't unconsciously live her out with your husband. And that's called getting out of hell, right?
Yes, right.
So if I could leave you with one idea, that would be one of the ideas. The second idea is we have to understand our personalities, because we come in with such different lenses and therefore such different assumptions and expectations. I give you an example that Joni uses in the book. It's a great example. It's between her daughter and her, right? Joni is a protector. Her personality is a protector, which means that what's most important to Joni is protection and truth. Okay.
Yes.
Her daughter is a romantic. And what's most important to a romantic is to be special and to get somebody else's love. Okay. Now, this is the scene. It's in the book. It's a great scene if you want to understand that, because those two personalities could not be more different, because the whole where your attention goes is so different. Joni's attention is going to integrity and truth, and her daughter's attention is going to acceptance and being special. Okay. Now, of course, Joni just learned about this personality system called the Enneagram. Joni, there's a story in the book. It's called Blueberry Pancakes. Joni, it's her daughter's birthday, and Joni makes her daughter blueberry pancakes. Her daughter's name is Allie, and makes Allie blueberry pancakes. And Allie raves about the blueberry pancakes, right? Like, Mommy, thank you so much for the best blueberry pancakes. Joni's cleaning up and sees all the blueberry pancakes in the trash.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Joni, who cares about integrity and truth, is about to really go after her daughter for lying, right? And saying like, lying is like, get a life. Are you kidding me? Like, you lied to me? All right, Joni's about to do that. Joni's not that. That's an exaggeration, but she would have said something like, it's not okay to lie. Okay. Then she says, wait a second. My daughter has a whole different lens. Her lens is about aligning with my feelings, which is what romantics do. Their attention doesn't go to, who has control and integrity. It goes to aligning with somebody else's feelings and wanting their acceptance. So Joni says, I just saw the pancakes in the trash. And I think I know what was going on. You didn't want me to feel hurt, did you? And Allie, who probably would have expected under different circumstances her mother to have said, it's not okay to lie, starts to cry and says, yes, Mommy, I didn't want you to feel hurt. You went out of your way and I wanted you to do something so special for me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Joni says, oh, I really get it. I understand. Let me tell you something, sweetie. Let me tell you what's important to me. I wanted you to have what you want. So if you had told me the truth, I wouldn't have gotten upset. But I can imagine you would have thought I would, because if someone said that to you, I can imagine if you were trying to do something special for them and they didn't like it, you would feel like they didn't accept you. I know you, and you would feel very hurt because you would feel how bad they were feeling. But I'm kind of built differently. So all I want is for you to tell me the truth, because then I could have made the pancakes better. I want you to know their relationship, which was very good to start with. Joni tells that story, and that story now has happened, 25 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Close to
Right.
that. Because, and imagine what would happen if we sat there and said, what I really want to do is understand your perspective. That my work here, if I love you, is to really say, it's not that I know the truth. Now there is truth there, right? The truth is the daughter threw the stuff into the
Yes.
wastebasket. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, now the question is, what do you do with it? What would happen if you say, all I know is she threw it in there, but I don't know why?
Yeah.
What would happen? What?
Did she not like blueberries?
Well, she knew she liked blueberries because it was her favorite breakfast.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But she didn't know. I mean, what would happen if you say, what's going on for her that she didn't tell me the truth, but threw that in there, as opposed to judging her for it?
Yeah.
Right? The data is there, but our interpretation of the data is not data. I have someone I'm very close to, and her daughter hasn't talked to her for weeks, and she's crying, saying, my daughter doesn't want to talk to me. I said, you don't know that. I understand that you're feeling very hurt because your daughter doesn't want to talk to you, but all you know is you texted her and she didn't respond within a few days. Do you know for sure that means she doesn't want to talk to you?
Right.
I know something about your daughter, and I said, I have good and bad news for you. It's that she's preoccupied with herself. She's not even thinking about you. You're taking it personally, saying, oh my God, you don't want to talk to me. She's not even, I know her. I know what she's like. She's in her own world, and she'll get back to you when she gets back to you, and it has nothing to do with you. It's not that she doesn't want to talk to you or that she doesn't want to talk to you. She's caught up in her own stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
That woman looked at me like, it never occurred to me. Right? So we take data. I texted her and I haven't gotten a response. We don't even know if she got the text message, right? But we'll filter it through our stuff, and then we'll say, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me. Now, you know what happens every day in marriages? Same damn thing. We take it personally and we interpret it given our own limitation, and then we throw that up, literally. We get nauseous and we vomit all over our partner. You don't want to talk. Wait a second. What are you talking about? And then he gets angry because no one understands him, which isn't her problem, right? Her problem is you don't want to talk to me. His problem is no one understands me. And the next thing you know, they're in divorce court, right? Yeah. And all that happened is she sent a text message and he was preoccupied, because he's in his own little world. And the next thing you know, they're having this monumental fight, and they don't step back and say, wait a second. What's it really like for you? If I stepped out of my own egocentric, limited point of view and said, everything is for a reason. And then we can decide, given the reason, now we can have a conversation, but at least we know what the need is, or the motivation is, or the whatever it is that's going on. It's like, then we have hope, at least that we're at least talking about the same thing, because I will tell you, people think they're talking about the same thing. They are never. I'm never strong. Almost never, when they think they're both talking about the same thing, are they talking about the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. I can see the parent one so easily, and it happens almost it's like a process of, you have to go through this of when your child doesn't respond to you, and get rid of all of the thoughts that go through your mind, just like that lady. And I mean, it's so much easier to accept your children when you understand they have a life and it doesn't evolve around you.
Yeah, isn't that, it's sort of like, we're all trying to learn. It's like, that's life. It's like, we all thought that human beings were the be all and end all. And then we thought the sun traveled around us. And then we thought,
Yes.
it's like, and for babies, we think the world revolves around us. And really, right, what's maturity is going from egocentricity to life centricity. The world doesn't revolve around us. Everything is revolving around everything, and we're not the center of it.
Right.
Right. In fact, we're just a cell in a being that it's all happening through.
Yes.
And when we know that, it's like, oh, I thought I was the whole story here. No, I'm some little like cell someplace, in a living being called life. It's just evolving, and I get to play my little part. And the question is, do I do it with grace or do I do it from a place of fear? That's our free will.
Well, I know you've given my audience lots of good ideas to think about in their relationships today. Very well done, Andy. I do thank you very much for this interview.
Well, it's my pleasure.
I
want to say to your audience, tell Joyce any reflections you have, because she wants to hear from you to know if she makes a difference and if anybody is listening, because she doesn't know what kind of impact she's making, and the woman is remarkable, and she really is. So tell her, because she really could use some like somebody saying something. Even if they say we can't stand you, at least we know that you're there. And if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me too. You just write me at Hahn, Andy Hahn. It's Hahn, Hahn, at lifecenteredtherapy.com. And if you forget that, if you can remember lifecenteredtherapy.com, you'll get to our website. So write to Joyce or tell her something. She will be so happy. I promise you, I can make a promise because I don't have to follow it. She will write you back and say, thank you, thank you, thank you 100 times. I know somebody actually listened to the podcast.
Thank you, Andy, for coming to my rescue there.
Well, you weren't going to do it. You were going to say again write me like I don't need your money, but I want to know that somebody out there is listening. I'm putting this out there. Is anybody out there?
Yes. They could even tell me that they need more of Andy Hahn, if that is their need.
Well, if they do
that conversation,
they
could go directly to you,
or you could have me come back to you because they're listening to you.
Yeah,
I'm just happen to be like a fortunate bystander, so to speak, that you were kind enough to let me share my message with the world. So I am eternally grateful. So I want you to know, if they don't say anything to you, I'm going to tell you I'm grateful, because somebody out there is listening, at least one person who got something from this, and it's your fault.
Thank you. Thank you.
When's the last time you thanked somebody for telling you it was your fault?
Yes. Well, I'm going to say again, thank you so much for being on the show. It's really great. I know my listeners did get benefit from the call today. So if we do this again, we'll be talking more about relationships, because they are such challenges at times.
I think that's true. And I will tell you, it's very hard to find somebody who really, is good with relationships. I'd like to think, even though, I don't always, I think I'm a good coach. It's sort of the coach who might not be able to play the best game ever, but I may not play well enough, but I'm pretty good at helping other people, get rid of their grudges, or see their lenses, or learn how to talk with each other better, or see how their fear is running them so they could be freer. That I'm pretty good about. So, if that helps, I'm great. I'm grateful. And I'll come back anytime you want, Joyce, because you're a pleasure.
Oh,
and you guys out there, tell her she's a pleasure and she's a joy to listen to. I've said it 3 times now. They better do it. You better do it.
Yes. But they can go directly to you and have a conversation with you at the Life Centered Therapy Institute.
Right, which is lifecenteredtherapy.com, or Hahn, Hahn, Andy Hahn, Hahn at lifecenteredtherapy.com. I do answer my emails, believe it or not.
I believe that. I truly do.
Mm-hmm.
And they can also get the 1 Hour Miracle on the website as well.
Right? They can, or they can go to Amazon, because gosh, we should say this, but Amazon, being the monster that it is, but they can get, they can get the book. They can get Kindle, they get it audio, but if you do buy it from Amazon and you like it, please write a review, because that's the only way we get up in the world, is if someone actually does it. So if you do buy the book, and I have to tell you, I'm biased, it's a really well-written book. And I can say that because my co-author, who never really wrote anything much in her life, is the most extraordinary writer-editor I've ever run into. and like I was really lucky to be able to write with her. So,
Yeah.
But I want to sing her praise because Joni is. You should all have a chance to meet Joni. But I've been lucky enough to do that because Joni is. I mean, I could spend an hour just telling you what a remarkable person she is, even though she's human. We all have our whatevers, but Joni should be the president.
Oh, okay.
I mean that seriously. I will tell you something. This is the last thing I'll say about Joni. When she was 25, her father-in-law, who was one of the bigger CEOs in the country, told his wife, Joni today at 25 would be a much better CEO than I am. And he was the CEO of a very large company, and he was very good.
Yeah. What a nice compliment, Joni.
Well, Joni didn't hear it from him, but after he died, Joni's mother-in-law said, I want you to know what he said about you.
Oh, nice.
It was nice. So I hope we do have a chance to talk again. You are a pleasure and a joy, and you're a Joyce. So we're going to rejoice in you being a joy.
All right, I'm going to talk a minute with my listeners. So, my assignment is always the same. I'm sorry, I'm very plain about that, and you know it already. But share the word. Share the word with those friends out there that need to know about Second Wind and our interview today with Dr. Andy Hahn. Please get the word out there, because all I'm here for is, as well as Andy, is to help people have better relationships today. So I'm not crying. I just had a little raspy voice there. So anyway.
It's okay, Joyce.
So thank you for being here today. And I look forward to seeing you and knowing you're out there. And I look forward to your question that Andy has encouraged you to send out. So thank you very much. We're going to see you next week.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.